Hello you guys, it's Katie and welcome back to another video. For today's video I have a breakdown of my 2025 to 2026 market season. So it's currently mid-May and I just had my last market of the season. Here in Florida, the season goes from normally September or October to May because over the summer months it just gets so hot that they don't really have outdoor events, which is what I typically sell at. So for me, my season began in October and then ended just now in mid-May. So I'm going to give you a breakdown as far as what best sellers were, how many items I sold, how many events I sold at, which events were the best ones, all sorts of things like that. So as always for these videos, I will have links in the description box below for any patterns I'm mentioning for these items that are good sellers for me. That way if you want to make them for your own events, you can. And of course I'll tell you like what yarns and things I used for them as well. And anything that I have pictures of as far as the events themselves and whatnot, I will try to pop up on the screen for you as well. But I did just wanted to go through and do a little breakdown with you guys since the season is now over. If you guys saw at the beginning of the year in January, I did do a 2025 video as far as what my bestsellers were for 2025. I believe that was like top 15 bestsellers for 2025. So my bestsellers list is pretty similar to that still because there is a bit of an overlap as far as the last couple months of 2025 at least. So there is a bit of an overlap as far as the bestsellers and whatnot, but of course I have different totals for you as well as you know, just talking about the events specifically. So with that though, I'm gonna pull up my square and give you guys the breakdown. And if you guys saw, I did do a little post that I broke down a little bit of this. I did it actually here on my community tab on YouTube, as well as I posted it over on my Instagram, which Instagram is where I'm most active, and that is just Katie being creative, just like here on YouTube and all of that. But I am most active over on Instagram. I started out the season October 4th and 5th at an event that was a fall harvest festival. And that was more farmers market hours, so that was 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. each day, and that event did have like hay rides and a pumpkin patch and like bounce houses and a lot of kid activities, so that was definitely a good event for me. And then I had my usual pop-up market that I had the third Saturday of every month from October to May. And then I did also have a Halloween event that was the Sunday before Halloween, so that ended up being the 26th of October. And that was an event in downtown St. Pete, which I typically do well at. However, I did not as well this year as I did the previous year. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do it, well, when I say this year, I mean last year in 2025. But this season, I didn't do as well as I did the previous season when I sold at it in 2024. So I'm not sure I'm going to be doing this one this coming up season because I am just cutting down in general on the amount of events I'm doing. But it still was a good event. Like, I still made my feedback and it was still worth it for me to go. It just wasn't as good of a day as I had thought because of how well I did the previous season. But anywho, that was my October events. And then for November, I just had the one event where it was just the third Saturday. And then for December, I picked up again and had quite a lot of events. I had a Friday market on the 5th of December, which was a Christmas tree lighting at night. And then I had a weekend market the next weekend that was supposed to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. However, I ended up only going to Friday and Saturday for this event because my mom and I ended up getting a little bit sick, a little under the weather, and I just didn't want to spread it to anybody. I don't even know if we ended up being sick. Like, actually, I don't think we did. It may have just been like allergies or whatever, but I didn't want to spread it to anybody in case. So we ended up not going on the third day since we started feeling like we were coming down with something on that Saturday. And then I did have the third Saturday as well for December, obviously. And then from January to May, I started at a new event. And that one was the first Saturday of every month. So I did that from January to May, as well as I still had the third Saturday of every month. And I did one extra event in March that was right around St. Patrick's Day. However, it wasn't really like St. Patrick's Day themed or anything. It just happened to be March 14th, which was, I believe, the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. But that is all the events I attended this season. So that ended up being 20 market days, which is pretty crazy, especially considering the fact that I am in full-time school. Doing that many events definitely felt crazy, but it was a good season and I definitely had a lot of fun. But like I mentioned, I will be cutting down on the events I'm doing this coming up season because school is getting more busy and yeah, I just have more obligations that aren't keeping me creative, unfortunately. But yeah, 20 market days, and 4 of those were the same event that were just 2 days I spent at the same event. So just like I did for that video back in January of my top bestsellers from 2025, I'm going to do my top 15 bestsellers from the season 2025 into 2026. So we're going to start with 15 and work our way up to the number 1 spot, which, like I said, this is pretty similar to the order for 2025 in general, but a couple things are different. So the 15th spot is mini bees. I sell my minis in one bin for $5, and I had sold 15 of those total. So 15 of them sold for the 15th spot. Next in line was a keychain. For number 14th spot is 17 Leggy Frogs keychains sold, and all of my keychains are sold for $10 a piece. By the way, for the mini bees, I was doing them with burnout blanket for a while, but I did run out of my yellow burnout blanket, so I've been doing them with, I want to say, Sweet Snuggles yarn now. And then for the Leggy Frogs, I always do those, as well as the Leggy Frog keychains with Perfect Chunky yarn. Next in the 13th spot was eggs, and I had 18 of those sell. Those are $10 a piece, and I do use Sweet Snuggles yarn for those currently. Next is octopus. My regular size octopus, I sold 21 of those. I use burnout blanket or baby blanket for those most of the time, and I do them in a variety of multicolors. Actually, for my 10th, 11th, and 12th spot, it is a tie because I sold 21 of each of these items. So like I said, I sold 21 octopus. Next is pickles. I also sold 21 of those, and I sold 21 bees. So the pickles, I do those in burnout blanket smoky green, and then for the bees, I do those in parfait chunky. So yeah, I had 21 of all of those sell. For the pickles, I do make different faces on them, and my most popular was angry faces. I had 9 of those sell. Next most popular was 7 smiles and 5 with just a straight face. And then for the bees, my most sold was 17 regular bees, but I did sell 4 rainbow bees. And I do have a modification for making rainbow bees over on my Instagram. I'll try to remember to link the regular pattern as well as the rainbow modification in the description box for you guys. That was the 10th, 11th, and 12th spot because all 3 of those tied for 21 of them being sold. So in the 9th spot, we have octopus keychains. So again, all of my keychains are $10. I typically make these with just chenille yarn or Big Twist Posh yarn, although that's not a thing anymore, but Michaels does have their own version of that now. I forget what it's called. But anywho, the keychains have become more and more popular, I feel like, over this season. And yeah, I had 22 of those sell. Again, $10 a piece for each of those. And then the 8th spot is my opossums. I had 24 of those sell. I feel like if I prioritized making the opossums, I would have sold more than 24 because typically this is higher on my ranking, but this time I really just did not have the time to be crocheting as much, so there were a lot of markets where I ended up not having very many opossums or not having many at all, so they would be a quick one to sell out. But anyways, that was the number 8th spot. So now moving on to the 7th spot, we have chicken nuggets, and I did sell 32 of those. And again, this is one that I do different faces on. The most popular this time around was 13 happy faces, but I did have 11 angry faces sell and 8 with just a straight face sell. And sorry if I'm forgetting to say what yarn I use for these or the price. I'm trying to remember for each thing to say the yarn and the price, but I think I'm forgetting for some of them. But for the chicken nuggets, I use Chenille Home Slim yarn, and they are $10 a piece. Next for you guys is the 6th and the 5th spot, because these are another tied one, and that is with 33 of each of them sold. And that is ducks and chicks. So this time around, I did have a tie between ducks and chicks. I feel like chicks are normally a better seller than ducks, but this season I ended up having a lot of people that liked my mallard ducks. So I did end up selling an equal amount of both of those. And those actually came from the same pattern pack, funny enough. So the ducks I charged $14 for, and the chicks I charged $12 for. The ducks I use Bernat blanket yarn, and the chicks I have been using Sweet Snuggles yarn because I did run out of Parfait Chunky that I was using for them before. So that is again the 5th and the 6th place because I sold 33 of each of those. So going on to the 4th spot, we have Leggy Frogs. I always do these in Parfait Chunky, and I sold 40 of these for this market season, and I sell these at $12 a piece. For the number 3rd spot, we have chickens. I sold 41 of these. I always like to use Bernat blanket for these. I do them in white as well as a lot of different multicolors. And yeah, 41 of those sold, and I charge $15 each for those. And then 2nd spot is axolotls. You guys know that this is a good seller for me. I think my top 3 here are actually the same from all of 2025 as well as 2025 into 2026. But yeah, I had 45 axolotls sell from October to May. And again, I use Parfait Chunky for those. And I charge $15 each for those. Can't remember if I said that already. So actually, before we get into the final spot, I do want to do some honorable mentions because there are a lot of bigger items that I like to crochet that are good sellers for me. I just don't get the chance to have them in stock as often as I do these quick little items. So one of those is my loaf cats. I had 7 of those sell this year, and I have so much fun with these. Everybody loves these when I have them at markets. So that is definitely a good one. As well as some Halloween-y themed items that sell really well for me. I had 8 pumpkins sell, 14 mini ghosts sell, and 3 of my trick-or-treating ghosts sell. The trick-or-treating ghosts are significantly bigger, but people love those. Every time I had them this past October, they sold as one of the first items. So hopefully for this coming up October, at all my events, I'll have maybe like at least 5 of them because people just love them so much. And if I do say so myself, I agree, it is my own pattern design. And I actually have a mini one out now as well as the original trick-or-treating size ghost, and it's just a little ghost that's holding a pumpkin basket. So yeah, those are always a big hit for fall, as well as the pumpkins and the mini ghost. And I actually do the mini ghost now in glow-in-the-dark yarn as well. So I had 3 sell in glow-in-the-dark yarn, and then 11 of them sell just in regular white yarn. And I believe for those I'm charging like 12 or 14. I actually can't remember because that's been a little while ago since October. But yeah, can't wait to have those out for next season. Throughout the season, I had 11 of the bee keychains sell, so that is a popular one as well. And I had 9 chunky mushrooms sell. This is another one that if I had more time to make chunky mushrooms, they would definitely be higher on the list as far as being a top seller. But they didn't make the top 15 this year just because I don't prioritize making those over the chickens and the axolotls and the things I know that are going to sell every time. So with that though, that is pretty much it for my honorable mentions. So let's get on to the #1 spot for bestsellers. Drum roll please. That is the mini octopus, which if you've heard me talk about bestsellers ever, you probably could guess that, to be honest. That is another $5 item that goes in my minis bin, as well as the mini whales and the mini bees. Like we talked about, the mini bees were in my 15th spot, but the mini octopus are always, always, always the top seller, and I did have 52 of those sell. Just like my regular octopus, I do those in Burnette Blanket, and I do them in a variety of different multicolors. So that is it for my top 15 list, as well as a couple honorable mentions. I do briefly just want to talk about which events ended up being best for me this year and kind of the trajectory of events that I sold at, and then maybe just a little bit of my plan for next season, although I've kind of touched on that. Almost always for me, every single market season, I end up selling better at the beginning of the season and slowly but surely have a decline towards the end of the season. And in my mind, that is for 2 reasons. Maybe 3, actually. I could probably think of 3 reasons. So firstly is the fact that it's obviously the holidays from October, November, December time, and people are buying more around the holidays. I mean, that part is kind of just self-explanatory, I think. Second reason for me personally is that as school has gone on, and in general as the season goes on, I have not as much inventory because I don't have as much time to prep in between markets, as well as over the summer I'm able to get a lot of crocheting done when I don't have markets back to back. So the first couple of markets I have a lot more inventory than the rest, so that's automatically going to equal a difference in sales towards the beginning versus sales towards the end. And my third and final reason is kind of similar to the first one, and that is the fact that it is around the holidays, and I do have a lot of holiday specialty items, like we talked about the ghost and the pumpkins. And we didn't really talk about Christmas ones because I honestly didn't get the chance to crochet as many Christmas ones this year, but I do make like little Christmas tree, little Debbie cakes, little snowmen, things along those lines as well, that ends up with me having more inventory at the holiday markets and then typically doing better at those. So that is my reasoning, at least in my mind, for why that has been the case for me over the past couple of years of doing markets. And in general, around the new year too, I tend to see a little bit of a dip in sales because I feel like people are budgeting New Year's resolutions to not spend as much, those sorts of things. And then around Easter this year, I saw not up to the height of around the holidays, but around spring, Easter, March time, I did see a little bit more of a rise again in sales. I think because I do have items like chicks and bunnies that people think are cute to put in Easter baskets and things like that. I do see a little bit of an increase again around the springtime, and then it trickles off again towards May. So that is kind of the trajectory, if you can imagine like a big amount around October, November, December, big decline around January, a little bit up towards April, and then down again for May. Is kind of how things work as far as my market season typically. So this year was really no exception. That was pretty much what I had expected and what happened. So yeah, my best markets were at the beginning of October, the very beginning of the season, and then slowly but surely trickled down. So yeah, one other thing I did want to mention though that is pretty cool. Normally I don't think to actually go look at the statistic within my Square, because normally I just look at all my statistics on the app, but to see this one specifically, you have to log into square.com and whatever. I don't think it's actually Square, I think it's squareup.com, but anyway, the Square platform on the web browser instead of on the app to see your total amount of items sold. But this year I did have, I keep saying year, I apologize. This season I had 579 plushies that I sold, which is crazy. So again, quite a lot of those were crocheted over the summer when I wasn't as heavily doing markets. However, a lot of those were crocheted in the middle of the season as restocks. So crazy, crazy, crazy number for sure. 579, almost 600 plushies made by these hands and sold to customers and people that hopefully love them just as much as I love creating them. But yeah, that is pretty much my breakdown. The only other thing I did want to discuss pretty quickly is just my plans for future market seasons and how that's going to look. And then that'll be it for this video. So for the season 2026 into 2027, I do plan on doing my third Saturday every month market that I've been doing for quite a few years. I did take 1 year off of it, but I regretted taking that year off, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I do plan on doing that one as long as I get into it, of course. I actually haven't filled out any applications or anything yet. A lot of these markets, their applications come out in like July and August sort of time. So I haven't applied yet, but as long as I do get in as a vendor, I plan on being a seasonal vendor for that market. However, they do now do half seasons. They didn't used to do it. They used to just do the one season, but they do now do half seasons where you can sign up for October to January, or you can sign up for February to May. So I'm toying with the idea of just doing the first half of the season because I do have significantly better sales the first half of the season, but I still make my fee back and a good amount of money on the other ones. So I most likely will do the whole season still, because I do love that one and I love seeing my repeat customers. So yeah, I haven't fully decided whether or not I'm going to do the whole season or the half season of that market. I'm sort of leaning towards the full season, but we shall see. And then as far as other markets, I think I will just stick to doing ones in October and like December and then maybe April, around the holidays when I tend to do best. So I'll probably do like fall festivals and Christmas tree lightings and things like that that I did this previous season that I ended up doing really well at. One thing I did not do this season is I did not sell at the Blueberry Festival, and last season I sold at the Blueberry Festival and I did very, very well. So I regret that I did not sell at the Blueberry Festival this year in April. So I'm definitely hoping to, fingers crossed, do that in 2027, because that was really, really good for me in 2025. So yeah, otherwise though, that's kind of my recap as well as my plans for next season. I am talking ambitiously, although I don't know how many markets I will actually be able to attend. Again, as I've mentioned, school's getting busier, just other obligations in general. So I don't know. We shall see how much Katie Being Creative gets done, whether it's videos or markets. I'm not sure how much will actually be happening for the next season, but I am slowly feeling things out with school over the summer and whatnot, as it gets busier as I get closer to graduating. But that is it for everything I have for you today. So thank you so very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. It lets me know you guys enjoyed it, as well as it pushes the video out to more people that will also enjoy watching it whenever you give it a thumbs up. And as you guys know, I don't have a posting schedule really anymore on this channel. So if you enjoyed, make sure you're subscribed and that you turn on the notification bell. That way YouTube will give you a notification every single time I post a new video here on my channel. And if you do want to see more from me, you can check out more videos of mine. My social medias, my website, all of it is linked below for you guys, and I am just Katie Being Creative everywhere. And finally, if you did want to check out any of the patterns for any of these items I was talking about in today's video, you can check all those out in the description box below for you as well. But with that, that is all I have for you today, so thank you so very much for watching, and I shall see you guys here in the next video. Goodbye!